What's going on, everybody? This Afro Think Tank. I just want to ask you guys how you guys doing in this economy, because it's rough. It's rough. And see, I live in Washington D.C., right? DMV area. You know, it's expensive here, right? It's super expensive, and it's one of the most expensive places in the world, right? So every day I deal with the expenses of one of the most expensive places in the world. And I swear, every time I go to the grocery store, right, I go in there and I'm just looking to get a few things. Maybe I want to get something for dinner. I feel like I got a taste for something. And you get in the grocery store, you grab a little cart. Remember, the little cart. You don't even want the whole, the big cart, push cart. You just getting a few items. You can kind of hold it in your hand, but you don't want to really do that because you don't know. You don't want to be juggling because you may have glass. So you get the little hand cart. And I swear, by the time you put a loaf of bread, a pack of frozen chicken, a bag of rice, some choice vegetables, you damn near at $100. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm blessed to have made a lot of decisions that put me in a pretty secure position, right? And I know a lot of people don't have that, right? And that's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, even me, with my secure position, financial position, that shit's still expensive for me. I'm not rich, I'm just good, but I'm not rich. I could be better. Like I still feel like I'm in a classification of the day-to-day, the 9 to 5. I just don't go to work 9 to 5, but I'm getting 9 to 5 money, right? And so I feel it when I go to the grocery store and I just want to get a few items, and I just spent $100, and I'm like, I know the majority of people are not bringing in, like the average person is not really bringing in what I have the ability to bring in, right, as far as extra money. So I'm thinking, if I'm having such an issue, right, how are they dealing with it? How is a person who works a minimum wage job at maybe like Dollar General, or maybe they lucky enough to still have a job at like one of the big box stores like Shoppers or Costco's or BJ's, or they just work one of the jobs that ain't been taken over by robots yet. And most of these jobs are like just the main chunk of people who work. These jobs ain't paying that much. They barely paying $20 an hour, And I'm like, how are these people living and surviving? How are they paying rent and buying food and paying for their way to get to work? Because rent by itself is just astronomical. It's astronomical. To rent a 1-bedroom, I think the average is like $1,500. So how you supposed to have a family, right? So people are walking around wondering why dudes are not talking to girls, right? Why people are not getting together like they used to? Why they're not thinking about marriage? Why they not having children? It's because they can't afford it. You get out of school, right? And you go to college and you accumulate that student loan debt, right? And then the only debt that you can't eliminate, any other way. There's no relief mechanism for that. You can't do chapter 7, chapter 13, none of that. Like, they made sure that in order for you to progress, and if you want to get a loan to progress in this country to get to higher education, which they encourage everybody, you have to willingly, under your own knowledge, enslave yourself. Like, you got to put yourself in $100,000 of debt. You have to literally financially enslave yourself just to be a part, or just to have an opportunity to possibly be a part of the working class, right? And then when you get out here, you want to find an apartment, or if you're a young adult, and they want 6 months of work experience, right? They want 6 months of pay stubs, and they want goddamn 3 months of goddamn security deposit and some extra shit, right? And you're like, I just got out of college. I don't have 6 months of work experience. I don't have any of these things you're asking for. So then they're not qualified to work entry-level positions at which they literally put themselves in $100,000 of debt to get to, right? And in the age of AI and robotics, even entry-level positions that are supposed to be ready-made for these young adults, they're not even available. Because the AI and the robots are taking these mundane tasks that used to be given to the newbie, as him or her are training to learn the more advanced portions of the job. But that part's being cut off. All right. When I was, just 10 years ago, they were encouraging everybody to get your IT. Go IT, go IT, go IT. And everybody was going IT. And now, 10 years later, they're damn near some certificates and them boot camps and them. It's like, if you're not building the robot, if you're not maintaining the robot, if you're not building and maintaining the systems of AI, right, then your job is up for grabs. And there's a lot of engineers who have been losing jobs. People who thought that, oh, they need me. There's no robot that can replace what I can replace. There's a lot of people in the AI field, in the IT field, so to speak, that didn't believe that their jobs were in danger while developing and managing all these AI software programs. Right? Nobody's untouchable. Everybody, even security. They got security companies coming. Robot. Why would I hire a walking liability when I can hire a robot? I ain't got to worry about workplace death. I ain't got to worry about having certain insurances for legality purpose. I ain't got to do a lot of stuff. I ain't got to pay 401ks. And this goes for most jobs. Why do they want to pay some engineer $250,000 a year when a software program they can buy for $100 can do the same job and cost them much less money? Because, corporations are in the business of making money. Shareholders want a profit at the end of the year, right? Or at the end of the month, or at the end of the quarter. And they don't have time for, the company talking about taking care of the employees, sacrificing the shareholders' profits for being great employers to their employees. That's never was really a factor in capitalism. Taking care of your employees is not a thing, right? Even though we as employees and former employees, we wish that corporation would be more, fair. But this is slavery by another name, so it's not going to be fair. It can't be fair. Capitalism cannot be fair inherently because of the nature of how it works, right? But people are being pigeonholed to where you are born and you can't even afford to live. It's illegal to fail, but there's no systems to help you win. All the systems and mechanisms that's supposed to help people win if they put their best foot forward are being, the doors are shutting. The windows of opportunity are no longer there like they used to be, right? So we've got these children entering into the world full of debt and no opportunity. You got the real estate market slowly being taken over by two companies, Blackwater, BlackRock, right? Where they criminally snatch up all real estate, forcing people to rent in places they should have had the opportunity to purchase, right? It's just, and so this, like, the economy is squeezing. And I think capitalism does this. It breathes, right? So at some point, capitalism collapses to the point to where the average individual cannot survive. They can't. The basic things you need to live, shelter. It's damn near impossible for anybody to get decent shelter. Kids are staying home with their parents. I do encourage children who have parents that have houses. I encourage you to go back home. I encourage you to go back home and pay half them bills, because your parents don't really want you to come back. But if you offer, you say, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and take over that mortgage, or I'm gonna pay all the utilities in the house. You go back and you negotiate, and relieve your parents, of a significant portion of their bills. I'm sure they would. You're like, come on home, baby. You know what I'm saying? Come on home. Your room's still there. You know what I'm saying? We'll make some space for you, right? Because I'm sure your parents, who are, maybe they are financially established or, financially secure. They may be retired, but they still hurting because they have fixed incomes. Yet the economy continues to go up. It's not like they're giving raises to people on fixed income, on Social Security, disability, Medicaid, and various other forms of socialized programs that we have in America that allowing, us to survive by the skin of our teeth. So I encourage children, no matter how old you are, if your parents have a house, an established house, go home and fix that house up. Go home and to your parents, right, and free some finances up for you so you can reset yourself. Help your parents out a little bit. We got to kind of get back to community. This is where community is supposed to work. During times like this, we all separate ourselves so much because every single one of us are in survival mode once we get out of high school. And because we're in survival mode, the years pass and we don't get to bond with our families. We don't do the things we used to do. And the reason why we don't gather together like we used to is because of the nature of the economy. People are working their lives away. You don't have time for a cookout. You're too tired at the end of the week to throw a cookout and invite all your cousins and them, because you're not trying to clean up afterwards. You're not trying to go. You can't go to the grocery store and buy 100 packs of hamburgers and hot dogs and a bunch of buns and throw them on the grill and get. That's too expensive. You got to put out a small loan to do that nowadays, right? People not gathering together. Hell, even funerals are not popping like they used to. The funerals, hey, look, get them cremated. You know, we'll post something on YouTube or Instagram or something on TikTok, and that's gonna be the end of it, because people can't even afford that. You can't afford to be born. You can't afford to die. You can't afford to eat. You can't afford for housing. And we live in a world of abundance. We live in a world where every single human being could have everything they need to have a decent life. And every single human being, we have enough on this earth to evenly distribute so everybody can be happy with something. Bare minimum, at least. I'm not saying take away the capabilities of entrepreneurship, but at the same time, we need to lean more heavily towards social democracy, you know, and that's the truth. I'm a progressive, right? And progressives and social democracy is somewhat similar, right? You want to progress into a more equitable, governable state, right? Political system that's more beneficiary to more of the mass. Because why is all these rich people get to do what they want to do, enjoy their lives? Rich people, you know, they don't even pay when they go to a restaurant. They don't pay because they're rich. Just being in there helps the restaurant. They don't pay. They get complimentary services from everywhere. They may pay for their jet and all that stuff, right? But they take advantage of the system. They do welfare fraud. They're using Medicaid and Medicare, and they're rich, and they brag about the system. They know how to get life insurance and then pull from their life insurance and take money out and then borrow against themselves. They do all this stuff, right? And then anytime you see little peasants try to do that shit, we get put in jail, but they do it because they just call it a different name, got a different mechanism. Yeah, as a society need to change, a major change, not just a little change, but a very aggressive paradigm shift that needs to happen. Because if not, we're gonna get to the point where people are gonna start purging, if you know what I mean. The purge is gonna come. It has happened before, when people reach to the point of no return, where people get stressed out to the point to where they have no other option, and we are getting to that point. And rich people know it. That's why they live in their gated communities. That's why they live in their enclaves. That's why they're building their bunkers, because they know they're going to keep being as greedy as they can until the very last moment, until the human beings can't take it no more. They will squeeze all the liquid out of the rock of humanity until that rock cries in desperation for relief, and then they'll still try to squeeze one more drop out of that shit. That's how greedy the rich are. So we got to come up with something different. Right, we can all, if enough of us make an agreement and enough of us take a step forward in any which way possible to change the situation we find ourselves in. If enough of us do that, we can change to make it a more equitable planet for everybody. Everybody. You know what I'm saying? And if people didn't have to worry about their health care, didn't have to worry about basic living, we're not talking about give us everything, but there should be a basic standard at which people can survive and live without having to enslave themselves in some sort of capitalistic corporate system. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, you guys tell me what you think about this in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.